Hey, what up guys? Welcome back to my channel. And today we're going to talk about the story of Byzantine generals and why is it relevant and why is it important for blockchain technology and why is it important for Bitcoin. I also think that if you understand the story of Byzantine generals, you would understand how proof of work algorithm works in Bitcoin. And also, you may have heard that Bitcoin is a Byzantine fault tolerant system, and maybe you have wondered what that means. And you will also understand what that means by watching this video. Let's get into it, guys. So I have some visual aid with me today. And so let's begin the storytelling of the Byzantine generals. So back in the days we had this empire, Byzantine Empire. And so let's imagine that the red guys here are the armies of this empire. So we have two armies, one on the left and one on the right. And so here in the middle, in the valley, they have encircled a city, an enemy city. So we have two armies on the hills here, and they want to attack the city in the middle. However, they need to attack at the same time. They need to attack at exactly the same time. Because if this army attacks, but not this one, this army would lose because the city is strong enough to defend itself against one army. But if both of them attack, the city has basically no chance and the armies will win. So the two armies each have a general, and so the generals need to agree on a day when they should attack, and they do that by communicating with each other, and they communicate by sending this green guy, which is a messenger. So they are sending this messenger through the city and to the other army. And there is no other way to reach the other army. They need to go through the city because the city is in a valley and they are both on the hills. And so they need to send messengers through the city. And so this guy might write in his message that we are going to attack on Monday. Are you with us? Will you also attack on Monday? And so the messenger goes here through the city, comes here and tells this general that your friend is going to attack on Monday. Will you also attack on Monday? And this guy might say, no, we will not attack on Monday because we need some more rest, but we will attack on Wednesday. Are you with us? Will you attack on Wednesday? And so this messenger would then take this message that these guys want to attack on Wednesday and go through the city and bring the message back. However, we have a problem here because the messenger might get intercepted. He might be replaced. The message could be replaced. And so maybe the messenger gets intercepted. He gets killed and another messenger gets sent this way, telling the first guy that yes, in fact, these guys are also attacking on Monday, while they actually said that no, we're attacking on Wednesday. So now this army thinks that this army is going to attack on Monday and help them. So they are attacking on Monday, while these guys think that they will attack on Wednesday and that the Monday attack will be aborted. And this will result in the loss that the city would win. And so, as you can see, guys, we have a consensus problem. We have a communication channel which can't be trusted. And as you can see, there are clear references to the blockchain, because you can think of these armies as Bitcoin wallets. And so one wallet might say that I'm sending $10 to my friend John. But the message might be intercepted and it might be replaced with I'm sending $1,000 to my friend John or something. So as you can see, we have in Bitcoin and in other blockchains, we have a network where we can't trust anyone. We don't trust the communication channel. We don't do that, because that is the whole idea of the blockchain, that it should be trustless. And the same thing is here. They can't really trust this communication channel. So how can they solve it? Well, let's first look at how the messages currently look. So currently the generals are only sending strings. They're sending text. Attack Saturday could be a message, or attack Monday could also be a message, or retreat Saturday. Maybe one general doesn't even want to attack anymore, so he tells retreat. So these are basic messages that the generals are sending right now, and they are only text. And the problem with only text is that it is very easy to replace. And when a text gets replaced, there is no way for the recipient to really check that the message is authentic, that it hasn't been tampered with. And so that is the problem. And that is the same problem we have in Bitcoin and in blockchain, in Ethereum. And well, when I say Bitcoin, I really mean all of the blockchains, basically. So we need another system. We need some way to validate that the message hasn't been tampered with. And we do that, at least in Bitcoin, with proof of work. What does it mean? Well, it means the following. If I, as a general, if I want to tell my other friend general, my ally on the other side of the valley, that we are going to attack on Monday, I need to calculate a nonce, and a nonce is basically just a number. So this is a number in hexadecimal notation. You can watch my videos on that hashes are just numbers, where we talk about how letters and numbers are basically numbers. So if you see something like EF135, it's just a number. And so if I want to send attack Monday to my friend general, I need to find such a nonce that when I hash the nonce together with the message, when I hash it like this together, I need to get such a hash so that it starts with 5 zeros. And I do that by guessing. So I have my message and maybe I will guess 1. So I hash attack Monday and 1, and then I get some kind of hash. Of course, it would not start with 5 zeros, because it's very hard to get a hash that starts with a fixed number of zeros. So then I would go to 2, 3, 4, 5, and so each time I would hash the nonce with the message and see, does my hash start with 5 zeros? No. Okay, then I need to increase the nonce to 7, and I hash it again, and I see, does my hash start with 5 zeros? No. And I repeat this. And this is what we call proof of work, because there is no way to calculate this nonce efficiently. You need to guess, and you need to guess millions of times until you find a number such as this number EF135. And so once again, this is just a number, even if it has letters. It's a number in hexadecimal notation. So then I suddenly find this number EF135, and when I hash it with my message, the message starts with 5 zeros. The hash starts with 5 zeros, and then I'm done, and I can send this message to my friend general. And when my friend receives the message, the first thing he'll do is to hash my message and the nonce and see if the hash starts with 5 zeros. And it's very easy for him to do. To hash a string is very, very easy. The hard part is finding the nonce, because we need to guess millions of times. And so my friend general would receive my message. The first thing he would do is to hash the message and the nonce that I also provided. And if he gets a message that starts with 5 zeros, he knows that I sent the message and I calculated this nonce. I spent my computing power calculating the correct nonce. However, if he receives a message such that the message and the nonce when this is hashed, when they are hashed and they do not start with 5 zeros, he knows that this message should not be trusted. It has probably been replaced and tampered with. And so we have this rule. We have this rule that always when we receive a messages from each other, we hash the nonce and the message, and we see, does it start with 5 zeros? Yes, then we can trust the message. No, we do not trust the message. And this is how proof of work in Bitcoin works. So in order to validate a block, you basically need to find a nonce such that the hash will start with a number of zeros. And I just came up with this nonce. I don't think that this hash is will start with these zeros. I mean, this particular nonce and this particular message. I just came up as an example. And so this is a direct analogy to Bitcoin, where in order to mine a block, the miner needs to find a nonce such that the nonce together with the transactions of the block, like the Merkle root of the transactions of the block, they need to form a hash such that it starts with some zeros. And it is really hard to find this nonce. We need to guess millions of times. So this is the system that our general friends come up with. So, wrong. So in order to send a message from here, we would first take the message, we would guess millions of times until we find the correct nonce, so that it starts with the correct number of zeros, and we send the messenger through the city and to our friends, and our friends would then take the message, take the nonce, hash it, and see if it starts with the correct number of zeros. So guys, what happens if the city intercepts the messenger and changes the message? Well, if they only change the message, so for example, here, if we say attack Monday and our messenger gets intercepted, and instead of attack Monday, they replace the message with attack Wednesday, and they don't change the nonce. So let's imagine that they still have the old nonce. Well, it would result in a completely different hash, which would not start with the zeros. So if we just change the message and not the nonce, of course the hash would be different and it will not start with zeros. So what the city would need to do is to replace the message and then spend all this computation to find a correct nonce. So maybe this is the correct nonce for attack Wednesday. So if they replace the nonce with their own nonce that they have calculated, and they replace the message, and they also replace the nonce, as I said, the hash might be such that it starts with the correct number of zeros. So as you can see, guys, there is still a way for the city in between to send false messages, to alter messages. What they need to do is to change the message, but now they also need to buy some kind of supercomputer and calculate the correct nonce. And if they do that, they will get a hash so that it starts with the correct number of zeros. So we still have a problem with the city being able to not only change the message, but also calculate the nonce. So how do we solve that? Well, we solve that by adding more computation. So we solve that by making it practically impossible for the city to calculate the correct nonce. So as I mentioned before, guys, so the city could, in theory, change the message and calculate the correct nonce and get a hash so that it starts with the correct number of zeros. However, we want to make it practically impossible for the city in between to do that. So how can we make it happen? How can we make it possible? Well, we can have many different armies on each side. So maybe we have 4 Byzantine armies on this side, and maybe we have 3 Byzantine armies on this side. And so each of these armies would produce their own message. So this time we will have a vote on which day we will attack. So maybe this army says that we will attack Monday, and this army says we will attack Tuesday. This army says we will attack Monday. And so they would all take their messages. So let's say we have message, let me draw this. So we have message 1 from this army, and then we have message 2 from this army, and then we have message 3 from this army, they would take their messages and combine them into a block. So you see the connection to the blockchain. So instead of sending each message one at a time, they combine all of their messages into a block. Say that we have a B like this, a block. And in order to send this message in form of the block, so this would be a huge message. Maybe we have, like in Bitcoin, we would have several hundreds of transactions. But in this case, we have 3 messages that are combined into a block. And they collectively try to find a nonce such that the hash of the messages and the nonce would have maybe 7 zeros or something, or maybe it would have 20 zeros. So they make it extremely hard. They make this problem of finding the correct nonce very, very hard by making the constraint that it should have many zeros. And so the more zeros you have in the beginning, the harder it is to find a nonce such that the messages and the nonce, the hash of the messages and the nonce starts with the correct number of zeros. And so, as you can imagine, guys, it's very hard even for those guys, like the senders of the message, to calculate such a nonce. And they need to use all of their computing power in all of the armies to finally guess the right nonce such that it is correct. So they spend a lot of power, a lot of electricity, a lot of money to get the correct nonce to their super hard constraint that the nonce and the messages should hash to a hash so that it starts with a number of zeros. So they spend a lot of computational power. And then they finally send the message. And as you can imagine, even if the city intercepts the message, even if they change the message, and even if they try to come up with the correct nonce, we have made it practically impossible for them to do so. Because in order to find this nonce, we had to spend the computing power of all of these armies combined. And it was super hard for us to find the nonce if on this side. So it's practically impossible for the little guy here in the middle to crack this nonce and to send it further here. So most likely the city will fail in cracking the nonce. And if we also maybe we send 10 messengers, and so maybe some of them will be captured and some of them will survive and reach the end goal with the original message. It will take a very long time for the city to find the nonce. And so when the guys finally arrive with the correct nonce, if they now manage to crack it, which I think is practically impossible, it will be too late. Maybe they maybe will do it in 5 years or something to crack the nonce. So guys, as you can see, we have clear connections to the Bitcoin blockchain here, because these guys want to send their messages across. So these guys say that we will attack Monday, Tuesday, Monday, and so they want to send their messages to these guys so they can say that okay, so 2 guys here want to attack on Monday, and we also want to attack on Monday, and so they can reach a consensus that like the majority wants to attack on Monday. And so how do these guys send their votes on? They want basically to vote on which they want to attack on. So they send the votes by creating this block of all the messages. They find this incredibly hard to find nonce, so that the hash will start with a number of zeros. They send the message. The city, even if they intercept the messenger, it will be extremely hard for them to change the message and find the correct nonce. And so most probably the second city would receive a correct message, and it would be really easy for them to check the validity and the hash of the message. So guys, I hope you have a more clear understanding of how proof of work algorithm works. So, and this was a very clear example, I think, of how it works. And there is, this video is based on a Reddit post, which I will link in the description. And so this is a Reddit post by Short Bitcoin. And so it's in Bitcoin subreddit. So I'm not sure, maybe there's some kind of anti-Bitcoin thread. However, this particular post describes this situation in a very good way, and in a way that is very understandable for you as even if you don't know how proof of work works, you could understand like the concepts that these guys want to send something to these guys, and they use their computers to make it practically impossible for some minor player to crack the hash, to come up with the nonce so that they can replace the message. And it is like, we can think of this little guy, some kind of Bitcoin user that wants to tamper with the blockchain. He wants to say that he received 1 million Bitcoins, and so to do that, he would need to intercept a block and to change the contents, the transactions of the block, and also find a nonce such that the hash of the transactions in the block that he has altered, and the nonce would result in a correct hash. And by correct hash, I mean the hash that starts with a number of zeros that other nodes and on the blockchain would accept. So this is practically impossible for anyone to do. I mean, you can't use your own laptop to modify the Bitcoin blockchain. It's practically impossible. So the same thing here is practically impossible for the little guys in the middle with relatively small computing power compared to those guys to calculate the correct nonce. So that was the story of Byzantine generals, and this is how it connects to Bitcoin blockchain and Ethereum blockchain, proof of work algorithms. And a system that is Byzantine fault tolerant can tolerate these issues with the issue of when we have a communication line that cannot be trusted. So Bitcoin is such a network because it can tolerate untrusted communication lines by using proof of work algorithm. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you learned something. I hope you have a more clear picture of how Bitcoin proof of work works and how proof of work algorithms are intended to work and why we use proof of work. And if you are a new viewer and you like blockchain, you like technology, Bitcoin, Ethereum, you should definitely subscribe to this channel, guys, because you will find this channel interesting. I myself am a software developer, and I post videos every single day, guys. So today we talked about the Byzantine generals, Byzantine fault tolerance, and what it means for Bitcoin and proof of work. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.